When a new resident moves in, we actually would introduce them to another resident in the building who we call is the resident ambassador. So we have one of them, and after they've settled in, we would introduce them to our ambassador, and she would take it upon herself to introduce this new resident to everybody in the community. And then from there they would spend some time together, kind of just get to know in the ropes around the building, how where the laundry is, the activities, what kind of activities are being run, introducing to the other residents. So one of the things that we've done is we have one lady that loves pastries and tea. So when she transitioned and after she's done her 14-day isolation upon move-in, Heather and Wendy, my office manager and our community leasing, they created a tea party. And they had a tea party for our ambassador and the new resident, and that's how they bond, right? And so just spending some time so they get to know each other outside of us. So we just make that connection, and then from there they do their own thing, really. Living in a community style setting, where everybody becomes, friends and their neighbors. And the really neat thing about our residents, we have a mixture of supportive living and as well as independent living. And it's been great because we have residents that are running their own activities. So once a week, a number of our residents that are independent and some of our supportive living residents would play cards. They would play bridge. They would set it up. We just provide them with the space, let them know that it's there, and they gather in the evening and they would play bridge once a week. And now that they actually have more participants, they're looking at increasing it, maybe playing bridge twice a week. So we've got those kind of activities. Over Christmas, we have another resident that he has a passion for wine and has asked one of us if we could pick up his favorite wine, which, by the way, can only buy it in one place, like one store in the city. So picked it up for him, and he shared it with everybody during Christmas dinner with all of the residents. So, just sharing the things that they like to do, and their favorite food, whether it's favorite activity, finding that common ground, and they're finding it amongst themselves to be neighborly and create sort of that bonding moment, and, finding activities that they all like to share with each other. We do have a resident living with us that is deaf and mute. She's got a companion that comes and see her about once or twice a week, and she not only would engage with her loved one, she would also engage in stories with some of the residents. So with this particular resident that we have, residents that are not able to communicate with her directly, by having that loved one there, they're able to communicate together and be part of the storytelling because she's able to sign language. We have activities that are geared towards our residents. Each one of them are individualized, personalized to each of our residents. So as a resident comes in and move in with us, they get to spend some time with our recreation manager, who would find out as to what kind of activities that they have done in the past, what they've done at home, the things that they don't like to do. And so we would tailor activities based on, what that is important to them. In terms of meals, we do have a menu that is created by our chef in-house, and it's covering the Canada Food Guide. It is approved by a dietitian, and from there, again, spending time with our chef one-on-one, finding out what the kind of things that our residents would like to eat, and as well as things that they don't potentially like, but potentially good for them, and any specialized diet, whether that is low sodium, heart healthy, or diabetic meal plans, we would also create that for the residents on an individualized basis. A lot of what we do really is very much incorporated with hospitality. It could start as simple as, acknowledging that the person is there. So it's by greeting, saying good morning with a smile on your face, saying, when they thank you, whether it's just saying my pleasure. So it's just the day-to-day aspect of helping the residents and putting in that hospitality aspect of it, and providing them with the concierge like service. So every morning as part of our meetings, we always ask, what's for lunch and what's for dinner, so that when a resident comes and asks you, you're aware of it, so you're able to present that to them. So, and if you're going to a resident's room, instead of just giving them medication, you're able to provide them with more information. So it's not about, us giving you medications, it's how we deliver that piece of care, right? So, it could be a care team walking into a room and saying to Mrs. Smith, "Good morning, Mrs. Smith. Today, I'm here to give you your medication. For lunch today, we're having, a BLT sandwich of mushroom soup." So, it's adding a little bit of that piece of information to provide comfort to the resident. It's a small community. So the idea behind it is that when you walk in, it's feeling like you're walking into a living room. So, when you walk into your own living room, you want to see, things that are happening. You've got people that are talking or visiting, somebody reading the newspaper. So the whole idea behind our community is a welcoming. So everybody's greeted with a smile. Everybody, the residents are there. There's always an activity that is happening, whether, it's a group or just one person reading a newspaper and having coffee. So this is very much intentional that it needs to feel like it's home, right? Not in a context of a nursing home, but your home, what you would expect to see from where you're coming from. Part of our move-in process, our director of care would spend some time with the family and the residents. He would do some interviews with them to find out what kind of their care needs are. So get to know the resident in advance prior to move-in. And then what the director of care would do would create a care plan in advance, present that to the care team. So as the resident is moving in, they already know who this resident is upon move-in. So the transition from home to community living is going to be very seamless. Again, it's getting to know our residents on a personal basis, right? Like no two cares are the same. No expectations are the same. So getting to know each one of our residents, what is important to them. So, one resident, care may be important to them, but then another resident, what's important to them is the social engagement. So really getting to know them and personalizing each of their expectations, right? So creating that personalized individuals, personal care plans, I suppose is how I would say that. So that, we would meet the expectation of each of the residents, because again, like I said, care might be important to one, but social engagement might be important to another. So we can't replicate both. So it's very much individualized, personalized care. For me, I've always had the mindset that if I expect my team to deliver experience, to really understand what experience delivery is, it's important for me to treat my staff the same way. So if you have to lead by example, and so I would, I treat my staff to really understand what experience delivery is. So whether that's just me greeting them every day with a smile or saying good morning, it's just really paying attention to each one of the staff. And then so that by virtue, they will do the same thing with our residents. So it's very important that we start with the staff, that they feel that they are being valued, and that to help them and get them to understand what experience delivery is. For our residents, if they are feeling unwell, they do let one of the care teams know right away when they're not well. Now, if a resident is not able to vocalize that they're not well, each of the residents are always seen on a regular basis. There's always a wellness check. So if if an employee or the resident identify that they're not well, they're automatically assessed by our in-house nurse. They're isolated into their room, check often, monitor regularly, and all the services, meals will be provided on a regular basis for them. And then we would do the COVID testing to determine whether they have COVID or not. And then we would take that to the lab, and then we await word from public health, but we'll continuously monitor for, we'll maintain COVID protocols. So wearing personal protective equipment, so gowns, gloves, mask prior to care, and then the staff would follow their infection prevention control. For families, we do notify them right away when their loved one is not well, and letting them know that we're following COVID protocols. And so the family will determine whether they're going to put the visits on hold. We'd provide it either as a Zoom call, Skype call, so that they're not losing touch with their loved one, and would just provide regular updates to see how their mom or dad are feeling. Residents are not alone. They're not in their, they're not isolated into their rooms. They are still out doing their life. Like, we have 2 residents that, one resident, she has 2 dogs, and every day she walks her dog at 1 o'clock. And one of the residents have decided that, I'm going to join you for the walk, and take one of your dog, and both of us will walk the dogs together. So they're still living their life. They're still going out and picking up their own medication, going for walks. That the walks has been a popular activity for our residents. So there is a lake around the corner, and we have a number of residents that would like to go for a walk, so whether they can do that by themselves or one of the staff member would go with them. So they're not stuck inside by themselves. They are out there still living their life how they've always lived it. Our recreation manager would create what we call a care package, and so part of that care package is some activities that person likes to do, whether it's Sudoku, crosswords. We would put that all in a sort of a care package for them, would individualize it. Some favorite things that they like to eat would be put in that care package, and then it will be dropped off to the residents, provided that they are able to do some of those activities. So one of the nurses would sit with them, spend a little bit of time, and just, kind of open up some of that care package and let them know that, you got some activities here, so they don't feel like they're isolated and there's nothing to do. That's not so much of an issue, because I don't think they really realize that they're physically distancing. So for us, it's just, the tactics of like placing the chairs already, like, the 2 meters apart. And when we're setting up for activities, everything is already set up for them, so that when the resident comes in, sit down, they're already physical distancing, but they're still socially engaged, with them not even realizing it. So the very important part is us being, provide them with the environment already that keeps them all safe. Especially with some of our residents who have early onset dementia, who's not going to remember that, we're in the midst of pandemic. So we're taking away, that have to keep myself safe. Like, our job really is to keep our residents safe, so we take that already upon ourselves to just provide them with the environment that's already safe. It's a case-by-case basis. If it's going to be a difficult transition, so we would always suggest to leave it with us. If it's something that it is not going to be too much an issue. It really varies case by case, but the important thing is keeping the family updated every time. So if you're asking them to not come and visit, provide them with updates. That's very much the important thing. And including the family in part of that transition time too, because they're the ones that's going to know that the residents better than any of us, right? So they're going to have stories. They're going to be able to tell you what their favorite things are. So you're going to be able to engage the resident. Before the pandemic, really, we encouraged family to come and visit. And so home like a wild rose, the family was always been part of the community. So whether that's sitting in the living room having coffee, not just with their loved one, but with some of the residents and visiting, But with the pandemic, where it kind of have limited the social spaces for the family, we still encourage the family to come in and visit with their loved one, take them to their suite and have their visits there. But the residents still, because this is their home, you would often them see being when their loved one is leaving, they're still being walked out by the residents, which is kind of neat. And by virtue of where just the living room is, everybody gets to say goodbye, hello, and just a quick visit of how are you and that kind of thing. The nice thing I think for us is technology always been a part of our activities. So when we had to set up for Zoom, Skype, or whichever method that they were using, we already had that in place for some of our residents, because some of them have family that lives in BC or a little bit further away. So it's already set up for the most part. And the staff really, that we have to let them know that is, Mrs. Smith has a Zoom call at 6 o'clock this evening. Are you going to be able to provide that? As long as they know when it's happening, they're able to help and facilitate that process. For us, it would be specialized activities. We have some signature programs right now, which is a yoga class and some art classes. We are also centralized, a central location near 3 shopping centers, so West Edmonton Mall, Terralosa, and Mayfield Common. Really moving into a community, it's not necessarily that. It's the breakfast and lunch and dinner, the meal times do exist. However, it is a time frame that you can participate in. Our residents tells us as to, if they eat breakfast. If they don't eat breakfast, you don't have to attend breakfast, right? If you get up at 10 o'clock, it's okay to get up at 10 o'clock if that's your time frame, right? So you don't have to follow a schedule to move into a community resident. Your time frame is your time, and we're, as a staff, we are there to support you. We work on your time, not you working with our time. So, oftentimes that always happens, right? So when I talk to prospects, that's often the first question that they ask. Well, do I have to attend breakfast? I don't eat breakfast. I said, you don't have to, right? If lunch and dinner is what you eat, then lunch and dinner is what you have, right? Care plans exist. However, they're a guide. They're not a schedule. So that's what we always have to tell our, prospects, is that you tell us what's important to you, and we will work with you with that. What's important to me is being part of the journey of our residents, right? This part of their journey, oftentimes they find that it's, I'm getting old, so this is what I need to do. But what's really, for me, is I'm here to support this part of your journey. You have so much to share, and I want to be able to support that. I don't want to tell you what you need to do in this part, but it's me walking with you through this journey. A resident that she did not want to leave her home. She's lived in it for about 45 years with her husband. Her husband passed away, earlier on, and then and she couldn't stay in her home anymore because her husband was the primary caregiver. And when the family says, Mom really does have to move in. And we had quite a bit of plan because Mom was adamant that she's not moving in. So what I have asked the family is to take a step back, leave Mom with us for 7 days, no visits. I will provide you with an update daily of how Mom is doing. So that was really difficult for the family to just hand over your loved one and not see them, right? So that's the plan was. And what we've done with this particular resident, we just continue to work with her every day. You know, we followed her schedule. We provided her with the tea, like the things that she loved. You know, for breakfast, she loves a black tea with lemon, and that was always ready for her. So we did that. And for about, finally, in the first couple of days, she's like, where's the taxi? I'm leaving. I don't want to be here. She had her coat on every time she came to the living room because she's leaving. But finally, by the fourth day, as we just continued to work with her, spend some time with her, she settled right down. By the seventh day, when the family was finally able to come in, she said to her family, so when are you putting the house for sale? This is my new home now.